Hey everyone, this is People of Substance by LemonSkies. This is Olga, and I have two guests today. Debra, say hello.
Hey everybody, I'm excited to be here.
And Debra brought a friend. Do you want to tell us about your friend?
Yes, this is Viktor, the office bunny. If anybody knows me from LinkedIn, you may have met him in pictures, but here he is in video. He is a bunny. He's got ears back here somewhere. Can't find him. There they are. He is a bunny. He's a lion head rabbit, not a Wookiee. And he's really excited for his podcasting debut today.
I just want to squeeze his little cheekies. And Debra, fun fact, he's a second mammal, non-human mammal, to make appearance on People of Substance. We had a baby goat.
I love it.
Yeah, so that was fun. So hello, Viktor.
Hey guys, nice to meet you all. He's very grumpy all the time. This is just his face.
Yeah, sweetie. He can replace the grumpy cat, I think. So just to tell everybody a little bit about Debra. So Debra is a co-founder of D&S Executive Career Management. And what she does, I think many of you would find potentially very useful. She helps people, and her team helps people with resumes, but also just every step of the way, whether you're changing jobs, whether you're sort of looking at a new journey. So soup to nuts, beginning to end. So, and, she has some street cred, like in some nationwide publications. Her name is popping up. So she's kind of a big deal.
Thank you so much for the introduction.
So tell me, so how did you end up where you are? Like, did you just wake up one day and decide to start this business? You thought, the resume market and the career market out there could use some help.
Yeah, it's so funny. It was like an accident that took over my life, and in a really good way. But I've always been interested in careers and the workforce and things like that. And long story short, I had the opportunity to run career services for university on an interim basis earlier in my career. And I realized from that time that what I loved was preparing people for their job searches. So the resume writing piece, getting them excited about their job search, confident, be able to ask for, what they were worth, all of that, I really just enjoyed doing. And so I started doing it on the side for really more as a passion project. And so it was kind of like my side hustle. And it snowballed and took over my life in the best way possible. So since then, we started the business formally in 2016, and then recently rebranded as we've grown. So yeah, it was kind of an accident, but a really happy one. And I say we because my husband is a stay-at-home dad and helped me launch the business when we first got started.
So what was the moment, Debra, where you sort of realized, okay, so side hustle and it's a nice little side income, to really sort of, oh, wow, this is big. What was that moment?
I have a husband who completely believes in me. And at the time I was working full time. He was a stay-at-home dad, and we had made the decision of the business wasn't making full-time money yet, but we knew that it could, I didn't know what it could be if I could really focus on it. And so we decided to take the leap, and I quit my job, and we thought it'll just work or it won't. And at that same time, we decided to get wild and crazy and move to the coast of Maine at the same time. So all in the same month, we decided to just kind of go for broke and try it. And it was scary, but it worked out beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, Maine is beautiful, especially June through August. I'm not sure the rest of the year. I tease you about that all the time.
Yeah, it takes a real, I think, determination to stay here in the winter and remember why we like it in February.
Right. So, something I've been meaning to ask you, and, in interacting with clients and nonprofits, I certainly make observations, but I want to kind of validate my own observations and ask you, what are you seeing as far as trends go? I know that remote work used to be sort of rare, and now it's almost everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. I think there are a few jobs that are full-time in the office, but in chairs. So what are some of the key trends that you're seeing in the marketplace?
Yeah, so our clients, we typically work with, director to C-level. So from my experience, I'm going to be speaking mostly about leadership level roles. But what I'm seeing from my clients and what my colleagues are seeing in the industry is that there's a real push for work with meaning. I think, during pandemic and kind of after that, people realized if you get off the hamster wheel and then you realize what am I doing and is it providing value in the world and things like that. And so people are really focusing on doing work where they can feel proud and that they can get behind a mission that makes them happy and excited and proud to go to work every day.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big things, and certainly remote work. I don't talk to anyone who wants to go back to the office full time. So I think that's kind of here to stay if people are going to compete for top talent. But then the other piece is just that people are really looking for meaningful work. And so I think a lot of companies are going to have to build more visible missions into their work, even, for profit, which I think is kind of what we're seeing in the rise of B Corps and things like that.
Yeah. Well, and the work with meaning, I mean, that really rings true with me because I work with nonprofits, either people who are in nonprofits or supporting nonprofits. So, we've always sort of took meaning for granted a little bit, but that's good to know. Are you seeing turnover?
Definitely. Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of people, and especially lately, I know the Great Resignation is over, but people are still leaving lucrative roles because they're not the right choice, or they're in a toxic work environment, or they don't trust their leader. And so I think, to say the Great Resignation is over is probably, in some roles, people do still have the opportunity to move and leave. And I talked to one client today who left with nothing on the other side because she was in a toxic work environment. And even though she was, paid well, it just didn't make sense. And it wasn't something, she doesn't choose to work every day for that kind of treatment anymore. And I think a lot of people in the corporate world put up with things that now we realize aren't okay.
Yeah.
And people are kind of standing up for themselves a little bit more. So it's interesting. I do still see a lot of turnover.
Well, and that fits with the work with meaning. I mean, there's meaning in the mission, but there's also if you have mission, but the environment and having a positive culture and being surrounded by people you like, I mean,
Right.
That's meaningful, right?
It's so incredibly true. Yes. Because I think just even part of that meaning is, working with a team you trust and believe in and want to win together. And I think people are really looking for more of a positive culture, a better team environment, things like that. I think it's really interesting to see what people would have maybe dealt with for the money before, but are now I've had clients tell me all the time. And again, these are leadership level. This is not people that, have to pay their mortgage week to week kind of thing. But they're like, I'll take a step back and pay if I can do work that I feel good about and with a team that I feel good about.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to ask you, I've been hearing about, the quiet resignation. So that's the latest buzz term. And before I tell you what I think of it, I want to hear what you think of it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think this is a new phenomenon. I think it's just got a name now. I think when anytime an employee becomes burnt out, they quit performing, right? And a lot of times they'll stay in their role until they find something else, but they're not really performing at their highest level because either it's a toxic work environment and they can't win, or, they've become disengaged for whatever reason. So I don't necessarily think this quiet quitting thing is new, but I think it's getting a lot of press and buzz right now, is my opinion.
Yeah, interesting. Well, and I sort of just think if your heart is not in it and you're not giving it your best, you got to change it. You're not serving anybody. That's not fair to anybody.
Right. And it's definitely not a good thing, but I don't think it's a new thing. I think, anytime you lose the engagement of a team member and they just kind of check out, that's going to happen. But now it's got a name.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, you're big on, and actually you might have been the first person years ago that said to me, you should really update your LinkedIn, which has been the best advice ever. So I've been trying to be proactive and trying to be out there. So question for you is, what are the biggest mistakes people make in their social presence that potentially is holding them back or even harming their career?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. LinkedIn is so incredibly important, especially, for job seekers at any level. It's a really important piece of the job search. And for some candidates, I even say, I started as a resume writer, but the LinkedIn is more important than the resume. It's really an important piece to focus on. But the number one thing I tell people, if we're going to do a LinkedIn profile, the absolute most important piece, and I speak to this a lot in webinars, in presentations, we'll spend a lot of time on this because it's so incredibly important, is to have a quality headshot. And I think a lot of people, either treat it like Facebook or don't really think, they're not on LinkedIn very often, so they don't really think about the importance of the headshot. But what we need to remember is, especially in this remote world where, we most often won't go into a live interview and things like that, the headshot on LinkedIn is actually our first and only opportunity to make a strong first impression. Mm-hmm. And that's really valuable. You can't redo a first impression. And so, making sure that your photo is how you would walk into an interview or how you would walk into a client's office or how you want to show up in the world is a really important piece of that. And I think, for leadership level roles, having a professional headshot is absolutely vital. You should have something like that as part of your executive presence. For mid-career, early career, you don't need to have a professional headshot, but just make sure you take a photo on LinkedIn with intention. Use it, not just like cropping your friend out at a party, but like take a photo for LinkedIn with intention is my number one tip.
Yeah. And, lately, I don't know if you've seen those. There's like this trend where people are posting photos where like they're clearly not wearing a shirt. And it's a little weird.
It's a little weird. Yes. I tell women too, like, we need to make sure that we have tops. Like sometimes we'll have something completely appropriate on, but if you can't see it in the picture, you don't know. And so like if you're wearing something that maybe goes really low and you can't tell, then you look topless. And so just make sure when you crop your photo that there's nothing, you're not sending the wrong message.
You might be getting different type of job leads.
Exactly. Yeah. You may be getting some unwanted attention and for people that want that attention, that's fine. But I know that, a lot of times if you're job seeking, that's not necessarily the attention you want.
Yeah, fair enough. So what are some like no-brainers that people can do, social aside, but if you are looking to, leap ahead or inch ahead in your career, what are some no-brainer things that people should be thinking about?
Yeah, I would say never get so sucked into the day-to-day work that you don't network. Really, leap on top of every opportunity to go to conferences, go to networking events, get involved in professional associations, things like that, because that network, and if you're at a large organization networking internally, that network will be so incredibly valuable for you. And you want to build a network before you need it. And that way it doesn't feel awkward where you're asking people for jobs or you're doing something, you're just building a network of people that, that you can count on when you need it. And you never know where your next opportunity is coming from. And that's an easy thing to do, is just kind of just meet people and keep relationships going and check in with people. And that's one of those things that just really sets you, 4 steps ahead when you get ready to really start a serious search.
So basically like all the things we should have learned, in first grade, like be nice to people and,
Yes.
like,
yeah. And even at like, I was on a training yesterday on job search tips through the Career Thought Leaders on, and they talked about networking. They're like, and it's even with, go to your kids' sports games and talk to people. And one of my colleagues had a client who said, like, why would I talk to people at the sports game? It's like, well, you just don't know, you just talking to people. I mean, I know in my own business, I don't talk about business a lot at home because I kind of keep those lives separate, but my own neighbors have sent me a ton of business just through networking and knowing what I do. And so it's one of those things where you just never know where opportunities are going to come from. And that's an easy thing to do, of just, be nice to people, build relationships. And it really does make a huge difference.
I would also add, be nice to people regardless of where they are in life.
Absolutely. You never, I mean, that's just kind of one of those things, what's the saying? If you're nice to me, but rude to the waiter, you're not a good person.
Right.
I feel like I feel that, you need to be nice to everybody all the time.
Yeah. No, because there's definitely like, regardless of the rank, they may be an intern today, but you just have to not burn any bridges and not put, at any juncture. So that makes sense. So we touched on kind of the emotional piece, right? Like when we talked about how people fit into culture and sort of unwillingness to tolerate toxic environment. But I was actually thinking about when you work with your clients, it's an incredibly emotional experience because, it's sort of sharing your goals and aspirations and, asking questions about background, or sometimes there are sensitive work situations you're trying to address and kind of how you present them to the world. Can you talk a little bit about emotions and empathy in particular in working through those?
Yeah, it is such an incredibly emotional thing to do to help someone with their career, especially if they're at an inflection point. And typically, most of the time we're working with clients at happy times where they're really looking for that next best thing. They're not in crisis mode. Yeah. Now, that means we get to celebrate with our clients when they get jobs. We're celebrating wins, but then it also means that when, during the height of the pandemic, when people were losing jobs or they were having to lay off all their staff, that meant crying with clients too. Can't just celebrate. But I think keeping in mind that people, it's scary. It's scary to make a change. It's vulnerable to tell people your whole background. We talk a lot about money, and because we talk about compensation goals and things like that, and people get, that's always an uncomfortable conversation to have about, like, not just what do you make, but what do you want to make, or what, feels right to you and things like that. And then we just have to really be cognizant of how careers fit in other people, in people's full lives too. Even though we're maybe writing a resume, we had a situation earlier this week where a team member had asked one of our clients about a career gap, because she was, and from the writer's standpoint, she was trying to find out what was going on during that time so that we can message it appropriately in your resume to kind of get over the question that's going to come up with recruiters of, like, what was happening during that time. Like, why weren't you doing professional development in XYZ? But what she didn't know is that the client's husband had passed away. And so that was an incredibly emotional. So then it got them started on the wrong foot, I think, because then she felt like, oh, there was nothing I could do. My husband had passed away, and we weren't judging, but it was really more about, like, how do you take that experience and then message it in a way that sets you up for your job search. And so I think, some of those things, the careers intertwine with real life all the time, and working clients through those kinds of situations can be difficult.
Yeah. So if you weren't doing what you're doing today, let's say you weren't helping people manage their careers, what would you be?
I thought a lot about this question, and as a first generation college student from a blue collar family, I was the first one to have like an office job. I am doing my dream job because my dreams were small, and I wanted to work in the careers industry, doing something, helping people get jobs. I never could have imagined I'd be running a firm that works with people all over the world. So I feel incredibly lucky. And as I think about that, if I weren't doing this, I'd probably be doing what I had been doing before I launched the business, because I loved my career then too, in sales and nonprofit fundraising and things like that. So probably something still touching people, building relationships, things like that.
I just love talking to you because you're always so positive, and it's almost like you and the bunny that we showed earlier. Like, he's the grumpy one and you're like a ray of sunshine. So it's just so uplifting to always have conversations like that. Gratitude and satisfaction, I think, is really kind of shines through. So I always appreciate that. So we're going to do a little fun. I've been doing this, wrapping up these conversations with a game of Two Truth and a Lie. And you can't use Grumpy Office Rabbit, obviously, because we saw him.
Yes, you already know about him.
Right. We know that one. So Two Truths and a Lie, Debra Boggs edition.
All right. Two truths and a lie. Let's see. So I am terrified of E.T., even as an adult. I've never been able to watch the movie all the way through. It's horrifying. I used to play the bagpipes in a bagpipe band.
Okay.
And I speak 4 languages fluently.
Okay. So that's a tough one. So I know the bagpipes. Actually, I do believe this was a while ago that has come up. So I think that one is true. I mean, E.T. is terrifying. So I'm going to go with that being the truth. I mean, it's like the creepiest thing ever. So I'm going to say E.T. is the truth.
Absolutely. Yes. I do not speak 4 languages. I spent all summer working on brushing up my Spanish before we spent a month in Puerto Rico. I do not speak 4 languages fluently, but I am truly, and I've never said this out loud, like in a professional setting, terrified of E.T. And people tell me he's cute, like Alf. He's like the good guy. I can't see it. He's terrifying.
No, he's not cute. There's nothing cute about it.
No. It was my earliest memory of a nightmare, and I just never forgot it.
Well, that's very vulnerable of you to share that. So I will restrain myself from sending you ET moving forward. So
yes, I appreciate that. Everyone, please don't start sending me ET gifts, please.
Well, Debra, it is such a pleasure to see you. Thank you for stepping in. Please give my thanks in regards to Viktor the bunny. And please come again. I think advice you're providing will be so helpful to anybody who's streaming this. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to chat with you all the time. I love seeing all of your work on LinkedIn and out there on social. So I appreciate the invitation.
Lovely to see you.